Hello, welcome to the discussion 1 year after PSD2 and what's next for open banking. I'm happy to be the host of this event, and our guests will share today their experience, insights, and the future plans for the open banking. Payment Service Directive was implemented by the European Union as a mandate to help simulate online payment services to loosen the hold that banks have hold over customers' account information and payment services. The PSD2 is an innovation fueled by the growing world of technology and online payment services. It actually acknowledges the needs of customers to have more control on their account information. The additional security that was addressed for the PSD2 is a result of the fact that the European Union will now regulate the service providers, including issues such as confidentiality, security of transactions, and liability. We expected from the open banking to bring customers the opportunity to make choices between different service providers and types of payments, as well actually as new added value services to appear on the market. So how was it? Today, we have great experts in open banking, regulatory technical standard, online payment services, and consumer lending. We will start with short presentations from each of our guests. I will introduce them one by one. Afterwards, we will have the panel discussion to highlight key takeaways and ask questions. So please stay till the end of the event and enjoy. To kick off, I would like to invite the combo from Swedbank Group, Gediminas Misevičius, Open Banking Partnership Manager at Swedbank Group, and to support him, Mindaugas Žilinskas, Open Banking Team Manager at Swedbank Group. So the floor is yours, Gediminas. Hello.
Hello.
No?
Okay, thanks for introduction, Ekaterina. So I will directly jump into the facts or retrospective, what exactly happened during the year, because on 14th of September last year, PSD2 came in force, and actually we were one of the first banks to open PSD2 APIs in Europe, and in fact we did that in January 2019. And Swedbank was the first bank integrator in Europe. Actually, we decided to act as TPP as well, because banks can do that, but it's not mandatory part. So we introduced a service in Baltics in internet bank, where customers could see their SEB account balance as a first function. And that was done even before PSD2 came in force. Then we had the first active payment service provider, which integrated our API, NeoFinance, and we have them today here as well. They started with bigger volumes a day before the regulation came in force. And 1 million turnover of payments was reached already on 5th day after PSD2 came in force. So it's on 18th of September. And 1 million payments was reached by the end of December the same year. And the first premium API, the API that we do not out of regulation, but out of having better services and access for the customers, some additional services to be created. It's REST-FX API for currency exchange in Sweden. And that API allows to check currency exchange rates, like indicative rates, for free. And if you want to have exact rates and to convert within your account, then you need to sign an agreement to use that API. And today, more than 50 TPPs from 14 different European countries already connected and using our APIs. And it makes 15% of all TPPs in Europe already. So, and some other facts. So in total, during a year, already over 5 million payments were executed. And you see in chart on the right side, it's really growing steadily, and it's even growing faster and faster. You see this curve is a bit bended up. And the turnover of all payments during a year is more than 360 million euros. And it's growing as well. Average amount of payment really differs from market to market, and it's on the lower end in Baltics and the higher end in Sweden. And still, the fastest and widest adoption of PSD2 API took place in Lithuania, and other markets are following the trend. They are growing more currently than before, so catching up with Lithuania. And in Lithuania, 70% of Swedbank active digital customers already have used our API through some third-party provider. So it's a pretty big number. And the most active TPPs in alphabetical order are Klarna, Neofinance, Paysera, and Trustly. Most popular service is payment initiation, and 25% of API customers also use account information service. And some maybe more fun facts. So 50 pine trees are saved every month by providing transaction history statements digitally for TPPs instead of printing on paper. And the most active customer did even 31 payment per day through our API. Then if we try to convert the money that was transferred in weight of €1 coins, we will get 24,000 elephants. And seconds was the shortest time of payment processing via multi-banking. And multi-banking we call aggregation of other banks and utilizing their APIs. 8,300 euros was the largest amount of transaction which was completed in multi-banking. Almost 9% of transactions are bigger than 1,000 euros in our internet bank using multi-banking payment initiation. And 86% of payment initiation transactions are done within 1 minute. It's completing all steps from login. And what is current state and what's next? So we will continue PSD2 API updates based on new regulatory requirements and customer experience improvements. And the closest add-ons coming from 1st of October. So in Baltics, we will have future dated payments, recurring payments, and possibility to cancel TPP initiated but not executed yet payments. In Sweden, it will be clarified authorization, resource expiration, and cancellation of messages. Swedbank multi-bank bank link was launched for e-commerce, so it's extension of our regular bank link. What is good for merchants that it enables to sign one agreement, one integration, and covering many bank accounts. So far, besides Swedbank, we have SEB, LHV, Citadele on Baltic countries. And Swedbank Internet Banking Baltics also have feature to add other bank accounts, access statement reports, and initiate payments in other banks for the same banks as above. And we, of course, will continue to expand the list of those banks depending on readiness and maturity of other banks' APIs. And we will continue to work on premium APIs, paid services with features, and at least one or two of them we were planning to launch already this year. So I will hand over now to Mindaugas, who is lead of team manager of team who makes PSD2 APIs for all 4 markets of Swedbank, all 4 home markets of Swedbank. So Mindaugas, stage is yours.
Hi everybody. Let's say Gediminas had done some, let's call it a bit more business level overview of what was happening during a year and what is coming in a pretty short future. I will try also to do some statistics, but it would be a little bit more from technical viewpoint. So let's say what is our statistics from technical viewpoint. We are executing more than 10 million requests per month. If what is interesting and what was a year ago, we quite a lot of discussed what will be a amount of decoupled. So currently we see that only 2% of logins are done during a decoupled integration way. Instant payments, currently we execute 5% of payments using instant, like the clearing schema. We expected that it would be a little bit more. In our current API, like 2% of requests are ending with errors, but at least what we see something like 80% of errors can be prevented by more proper implementation of integration. And we see that API is pretty fast, like 99% are executed faster than 1 second. So let's go a little bit into the details. We tried to look by the countries. So Lithuania by request is still leading country, 61%. What has changed during some time, Sweden became more like a second by popularity, 16%, and then we have Latvia and Estonia, which are still lagging behind. What next? We tried to collect some statistics. I don't know, is it interesting or not, but anyway, maybe it will bring some insights. So how load is distributed by month days. We see that at the end of a month, amount of request is increasing a bit, not heavily, but increasing. And somehow 11th day of a month is quite unsuccessful. Nobody is using KPI so frequently. We cannot explain why, but let's say maybe it's a helpful thing. Weekdays. Sunday, definitely, it's a non-working day, but we see that Monday is also not extremely popular for like API usage. Normal working days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, are the most popular days for API usage. By hours, we have a schema of elephant. So it means during nighttime we work. In the morning, we are our users are mostly active. We get the biggest amount of requests. Somewhere after lunch, people are not so active, and later, activity somewhere near the end of the working day. What else? We also try to look at the minutes, how it matching a minute. It should be pretty flat by statistical fear. In reality, we see that each 5 minutes there is a increase of requests, so it looks like what are scheduled processes, and people are scheduling processes at either 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 30, and things like that. How API is performing, and here we took a amount of requests done, and on the x-axis there is performance in milliseconds. So like we see that some requests are executed in something like 40 milliseconds, and here we have a caching working heavily. Biggest amount of requests, something like is performing somewhere between 100 and 130 milliseconds. And let's say we have a request which are taking longer, especially when an account list is long, or a transaction statement for a bigger company. It takes more time than like a few hundred milliseconds. But as you see by the graph, most of the requests are finishing somewhere close to 130 milliseconds. What's next about endpoint usage? What are the most active endpoints? As by PSD2 directive, we implemented quite a lot of products, but where popularity is extremely different. What we see in payments, 95% of requests are SEPA credit transfers, so normal payments. Instant payments is approaching 5%. SEPA credit transfers provided in XML format. I checked during last month, we had only few payments, and we probably just for development purposes, so 0%. And cross-border credit transfers is also 0%. So like these products, like international payments and SEPA payments with all possible fields included, we are not used in the market. In the Sweden situation, also very similar. Let's say domestic credit transfers is like almost all the payments. We had like a few international payment attempts, but in reality it's very small. And like some additional products were also not used by the market. But probably we still don't have anybody who is using card-based payments API. So it has a zero usage, and accounts are used in all the markets, using both balances, account lists, and transaction lists. So what is going on from our side, what we see as a market overview, we see that market is still maturing, and quite probably biggest issue is that we as a banks and disagreements and discussions on what is must and what is nice to have. And usually we have arguments related with GDPR. Is it allowed? Is it not? We also have a different situation in each of the market. Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Sweden, where is our Swedbank home markets. In each of the market, we have a bit different situation, and we see that across Europe market alignment is even less clear. So we believe this is things that will with time improve, and we hope that it will lead us to a best implementation of API. What is still maturing under the sun of PSD2, what still needs to get a clear shape and maybe even standardization, it's processes for payment cancellation or recall, as PSD2 includes some additional requirements for payments initiated through third parties, but how exactly it works, we are still working on that. Efficient processes for fraud cases, contacts, trust, and things like that, how we solve the fraud cases. Maybe information on planned downtimes, releases, changes. So let's say each of us can, banks and TPPs can communicate it to our customers efficiently, and also agreement on usage patterns, as we will have a separate slide on that. What else can be improved? It's communication. What we currently see as we are migrating versions. Currently, Swedbank is we are closing version 2 of API tomorrow, and we still have 2.5% requests coming to version 2, and we are trying to communicate with third parties, but we see that some contacts are not up to date, and it's pretty hard to get this common understanding. So what is needed to have a up-to-date contact information, and with biggest TPPs we have established contact, but anyway, to deal with fraud cases, to have discussions about change of versions of bugs, we still need to have at least to my understanding, a better communication. What else is not perfect? We see that some third parties are incorrectly handling errors. So errors like no valid consent found, no authorization, or refresh token is expired. If we would be handled more correctly, our integration would work more perfectly. We see that some TPPs are not providing a real IP address of user who is using a TPP services, and providing not populated due to GDPR or a fake technical address. It prevents us from proper anti-fraud mitigation, and also raises issues later investigating such cases. So it would be perfect if this part would be improved. We see that what is good, that screen scraping is really decreasing in all the markets, and in some markets it's almost zero, I would say even zero. So this part is improving, and we're really happy about it. And about usage patterns, we see that we still have some things. This is our graph of standard usage, and you see that something like each 8 hours we have peaks which are creating almost double load on our infrastructure. So if more third parties would follow this peaks approach, then it would create would create an issue for our infrastructure. So alignment of our capabilities and TPP needs is expected. So quite probably last slide from my side, it's that biggest market players had adopted to the PSD2 API, integrated with us, and we are really happy. What is a fact that e-commerce is still use case number one, and we believe that as the market has managed to adopt what we expect that maybe this year and year 2021 will be the one where we expect that new products are created, which would bring improvements into the customer life. And I believe that this is a place where I can give a word to Alexander, and he will talk a little bit about upcoming changes in Berlin Group, as he is a member of this committee, and maybe he will provide us some insights on where we are moving with
Thank you, Mindaugas.
PSD2 API.
Thank you. Thank you, Mindaugas and Gediminas, for guiding us through the 1 year of PSD2 at Swedbank. So many interesting facts, and best of luck to the open banking team. Let me now head to our next speaker, Alexander Jones, Architect and Information Security Manager. He was the main architect during PSD2 implementation and has his hands on in the Berlin Group upon API experts representing Swedbank working on PSD2 standardization. He will talk about compliance, value-added services, and how standards can help with interoperability. So, Alexander, hello. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So let's start. Yeah, Swedbank and the Berlin Group. PSD2 was preceded by PSD1, and the Swedbank joined the Berlin Group early to try to work on standardization in the marketplace. And I mean, it's pretty obvious that standardization is needed if there are many players and you want to be interoperable. So the more players that work together, you will get more benefits rather than doing your own thing. So having common requirements, guidelines, characteristics makes sure that you have a product that is fit for your purpose. So Berlin Group is a voluntary organization trying to work with market standardizations. There are several other initiatives out in the European market, but the Berlin Group is the biggest one. The timeline of things, well, you can say that in the beginning of PSD2 there were lots of different interpretations of the law, and there still is, as you heard in Mindaugas' speech. So you can say you've probably been in projects where you have some sort of floating requirements. And this is very true when you look at the timeline of releases of the Berlin Group standard. So you see 1.0, 18th of February, 1.1, 11th of May, 1.2, 25th of July. So rapid succession due to constantly evolving requirements or fuzzy requirements being clarified on short notice. So as we approached release or PSD2 coming into force, 1.3 was released with the latest clarifications, and this is the version that Berlin Group states that you can be compliant to PSD2 with. And 1.3 has evolved over time with lots of smaller sub-releases, erratas. So the last 1.3 was 1.3.6. Was released in February. After that, it's been only minor clarifications. At the same time, we are working on a version 2.0 tracks, which is in the best of worlds be released late 2020. Maybe it will float into 2021. But as you can see, the market is maturing, and more players are getting on to the PSD2 train, and the members of the Berlin Group, banks, TPPs, etc., more requests are coming in, not only for fixes now, but for extended services. So for the extended services track, this is going beyond legislation, so beyond PSD2, which makes it, you have no legal grounds of exchanging data other than GDPR. So the GDPR style consent mechanism is very much in focus if you need to go beyond legislation. Whereas in PSD2, the consent is made towards the TPP, and then the banks just comply. Handling this consent with the PSU towards the bank to release the data is very much in focus for going forward. There are some restructuring to be able to cater for a data model that supports more services. There are going in some country-specific extensions as the different countries sort of describes their local products more. So these are constantly moving into the standard as annexes for payment types local to country X, for example. There's some ISO alignment going on where this has been focused from day one, but there are still alignment cases, edge cases, where we haven't been fully ISO compliant. So there might be some changes there. But main pull requests from the members are different type of extended products. So it could be merchant loans or something. You want to buy a TV, and for that you want a credit from the bank, and get a credit offer through that. So that is typically an extended service, or some other data that is not done in the regulation. And of course, there's the matter of new legislation requirements. In the future, we don't know what's coming, but one example of things that is pushing some data is, for example, the price regulation in the EU. So more currency exchange information needs to be provided for those type of payments. So what you will see going to version 2 is new data model and the restructuring of some of the services. And it's of course up to you when or if you want to move to the version 2, and if you want to support any of the extended services, because that's also important for the market to tell what types are needed. And as we could see in Mindaga's presentation, there seems to be a focus on the payment side versus the account information side, at least. That's what I had. So maybe it's Gert up next.
Yes, thank you, Alexander. I see we are starting to receive questions in the chat. So extending services beyond PSD2 mandatory requirements probably is the hot topic for Fintech. And it's a pleasure that we have speakers from Fintech companies today with us, so we can listen how a year of PSD2 went on their side. So let us welcome Garrett, Accountable Group Lead Bank APIs at Klarna. It's a great fintech, so we heard so much about your services and how you disrupted the consumer lending business in banking sector. So Gert, I see already you're here, so the stage is yours. Can't wait to hear your story.
Thank you for this nice introduction. Yes, just a few words of myself. I joined Klarna almost 12 years ago, and I'm responsible for all flavors of bank connectivity to provide access to the account in all Klarna markets. And as you already mentioned, today I will tell you how we experienced the migration to PSD2 SATPP. So open banking is what PSD2 was intended to be made for. And let me give you a brief overview of what Klarna is offering in the open banking area. So we are the most scalable and proven open banking platform in Europe. With more than 15 years of experience connecting banks long before PSD2, we are already connected to more than 5,000 banks in 16 countries across Europe and covering 99% of 12 of those markets already. As a fully licensed bank, we are trusted by more than 85 million consumers, which are executing more than 150 million transactions a year. And there's an overview of the countries we are currently operating in, and we are adding more of them month by month, to say it this way. And for example, the Baltic countries are planned to be added there in the first quarter of next year. So it is only one single API needed to be integrated to be connected to all banks we are connected to, and to be able to use the 3 services we are offering in the open banking area. So first of all, there's the account information service. With the customer's consent, we offer periodically retrieved bank account data to enable tailor-made smart financial services. And this is also the biggest change coming with PSD2 and its best advantage from a product perspective. That means the reusable consent for 90 days enables continuous data access without the user being present. The second one is the payment initiation service, which enables integration of seamless payments to move funds from one bank account to another, even instantly if supported by the banks. And last not least, our account insight service, which turns simple bank statements into unique insights and exciting customer experiences. And as one example, as you can already see it on this slide, is to enable the approval of loans in real time. So let me tell you about our journey from scraping to APIs. Klarna fought for many years to enable open, secure, and regulated access to bank accounts. We really appreciate identified API usage, which has the potential to result in a better conversion than scraped access. In February 2019, we aimed for being connected to all APIs in Europe by the middle of September the same year. But we noticed quickly that this won't be possible. But where are we today? We are connected to the majority of PSD2 APIs in nearly all our markets, and we are offering those connections in production to our open banking clients. Are we satisfied with those connections? Sadly not, or not completely, to say it this way. And we can easily prove what is working and what is not in the market, comparing our old connections with the new ones, at least for our services and consumers. Most APIs are still lacking in quality and performance and features. The experience and established scraping direct access is one of our biggest advantage. For Klarna's own offered services and clients who aim for the best possible connection, we often still use the offered fallbacks, which is mainly identified scraping, and are luckily not forced to use lacking PSD2 connections. Klarna has the ability to use these connections as an alternative. But what about other new companies that don't have this possibility? They don't have an alternative. So let's talk about what happened in this last year. The regulatory technical standards haven't been clear enough, which leads to misunderstandings and many different opinions on what might be the right solution. It took several EBA opinions to clarify the most important issues, and there will be more following. The banks did not aim for the best, or often did not aim for the best user experience, and are focused more on defending their territories and offered often a minimum implementation to be almost compliant. banks often, sadly, only act when they are regulatory forced to. But also most of the TPPs are focused on AIS, which made it harder to let mature PIS the same way. And how did Klarna drive the transition? We started intensive and continuous communication with other TPPs, banks, regulators, the EBA, and the European Commission to help to get mature APIs to be able to finish the transition as soon as possible. And there we exchanged more than 10,000 emails with banks for clarification, wrote more than 2,000 pages of feedback to the regulators. We performed more than 500 ABC tests, and we scheduled test sessions with major banks that took up to half a day if necessary. And we sometimes scraped the redirection to be able to give banks feedback about their own issues. So what are the business challenges we are currently struggling with? PSD2 sometimes feels like a trap, meaning we have several clients that only wish to use PSD2 connections. And we tell them, okay, we are connected, but some banks are still struggling with performance and missing features. And in this case, we suggest using fallbacks instead. But if they persist to use the lacking PSD2 connections, our service sometimes might not appear as mature as it is. So it really is a challenge to find the right balance here. What will be the fallback if the APIs of exempted banks will have performance issues? That is still an unanswered question by the EBA. So current fallbacks are often scraping based, but how should that be maintained in the exempted scenario where TPPs are only allowed to use PSD2 APIs? And the next one is that there is still too much friction with unnecessary SCAs. And there are, like I mentioned already, performance issues, technical issues, lacking features, and last but not least, the bad user experience coming with redirection. So the future forecast from our perspective is that there will be at least one more year necessary to reach a good state in most countries. Some of them are faster than others, mainly where the regulators are pushing harder to get things done, or where the banks choose authentication flows which are better accepted by the market as embedded and decoupled ones. And even then, there will be still a lot of space for improvements left. Klarna will extend the offer to push the transition in even more markets. And in the end, we are quite optimistic that PSD2 will be a success, even though it will take 2 years longer than expected. TPPs as Klarna are able to cover such a long period of time as we are able, like already mentioned, to use our proven scraping connections. But this development will speed up the consolidation of the market. So on my last slide, I will welcome you to test our open banking offering by going to our open banking demo page and to try out our account information service with your own bank account.
Thank you, Gert. Great presentation, great journey. Thank you for that. We will keep some questions for you as well. So now let us welcome the second representative from the business side, Alexejus Loskutovas. He is head of open banking department at Neo Finance. And I need to say that NeoPay could be called probably a front runner on the Baltic market for payment initiations, and probably they are initiating the majority of payments now initiated using our bank's APIs on the Baltic market. And Alexejus, you probably are heading as well to the other European markets, as far as I heard. So can't wait to hear your story. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katerina. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexejus. I am a representative of company Neo Finance, and I am responsible for open banking project there. I would like to thank Rocket and Swedbank for organizing such online event and for inviting our company to speak today. and everyone else who has contributed to the development of PSD2 and open banking projects. I would like to congratulate on the first anniversary. The first year usually is the most complicated, but I think that we are doing well together. So I believe that this online event is attended by some audience from abroad who may not be familiar with our company and our service. So I'd like to say a few words about us. Neofinance is a fintech company to which the Bank of Lithuania issued an unlimited electronic money institution license in 2015, which is passported to all European Union countries. The main activity of the company is P2P lending platform Paskolų Klubas, but we have been providing payment services under the NeoPay brand for 3 years. Since May 2020, after obtaining a license for the account information services, we also provide this service. People say that together we can do more than more, and the past shows that this is true. Together with banks, our TPPs, and the Bank of Lithuania, of course, we have reached a number of milestones this year, and that are leading to fintech industry forward. First, I would like to note that on September 14, 2019, there were only 2 banks in the Baltics that had functioning API interfaces. They were the biggest banks. However, now we see that we in NeoPay had integrated about 80 financial institutions from all Baltic states, including smaller banks, other EMIs, payment institutions, and even number of small credit unions. I still remember how we carefully calculated and compared the number of steps it takes to make a payment at different banks last fall. That time records with 11 or even 12 steps that didn't make us happy. But today, in most of scenarios, we only have 3-4 steps to make a payment. And that's about 85% of all payments. And it's really make me happy. When we talked about payment initiation service last year, merchants were very concerned about conversion rate and how their clients will react on the new user experience and additional steps. Now, I can state that most payers pass payment initiation service very quickly, and statistics from Swedbank shows that they are doing that securely and have no additional issues for either us or other merchants. So good job for us. The provision of the payment initiation service on white label has allowed us to turn some significant part of potential competitors in the local market into partners who are using our PIS or our competitor PIS and can allocate their freed up resources to other service development. What about competitors? Oh, sorry, I forget to switch slides. What about competitors? We feared that there would be a lot of them, and there would be a strong struggle both in the region and beyond. However, as you can see, although the number of competitors have doubled, and everyone finds their niche. Naturally, if comes to cheaper service by its nature, and new competitors emerge, price to go down. But I mean by that I mean that price of competing services should go down, which have long had to be reviewed. I will not be surprised if in 3 or 5 years this payment initiation service will be free of charge, and suppliers will have to come up with a way to monetize such service in some new way. So, taking the opportunity, I'd like to mention Swedbank and say some good words about them. I must be acknowledged that the response time and the problem-solving time of this bank is one of the fastest in the region. In difference with some another very famous neobanks which can afford not to respond to elementary inquiries on integration for 2 or 3 weeks. And I'm really concerned about such reaction time. By the way, our work did not go unannounced by Swedbank AML team, who started asking our employees about purpose they make so many 1 cent test transaction payment to the company account. Sorry about that, but there is no other reliable way to restore payer problem and help your customers to make a purchase online. I hope that this small misunderstanding will be resolved quickly. And remember this strange 31 transaction per day, which Gediminas was showing. I guess it was our employees. And one bad word on maybe question to Swedbank guys: why all the open banking innovations show up in Sweden first? And we in the Baltics have to wait to them for some time. We would like to be leaders in this field, and waiting for you. So, were we able to go further or more in this 12 months? Of course, yes. However, we work in one market where not all players are equally responsible and complying with directives and local laws. We are very concerned about some larger banks which do not pay enough attention to open banking areas. As a result, in which their customers and the reputation of the world service suffer. Some smaller banks often do not have enough resources to handle everything, but this does not have such a impact on the overall quality of service because payment from these banks are only 2% of all. Over time, they will realize that this day-to-day service must be done with high quality, otherwise their customers will leave their bank. Within 12 months, in accordance with the agreement with the Bank of Lithuania, we had to send reports about non-functioning APIs 9 times. Is it a lot or not? I don't know, it's a question to you. I would say enough as for the first year. I'm very concerned on the incidents with the banks that have an exception because they don't have a fallback solution to make payments under PSD2. So their failure is costly for us. Also, there are many unanswered questions about the GDPR and PSD2 interaction due to quarantine. The planned inspection of Lithuanian inspection for all of personal data was cancelled this year, and I guess everyone was very happy about that. But the question remained. Anyway, all of NeoPay's key performance indicators have grown this year. The number of transactions a month grew almost 2.5 times. Number of customers grew 3 times. Number of connected countries grew even 5 times, and the team grew only 3 times. The overall assessment is certainly not bad, but there is still place to grow, not only in Baltics, but also in the newly opened countries. For instance, Netherlands, there we started our operations last month. When we talk about the open banking, it's common to use the future tense because everyone is interested only in new features. So withdrawal of consent to transfer account information. Lithuania is the only country where this is highlighted. It is good that EBA's explanations this should not be the case. Second, the choice of the payer's account on the bank side, which will turn the payment initiation service even more similar to the bank link, so it will be clear and more usual for most of payers. Third, small amount payments. I mean the simplification of them. Banks go different ways. Already this week, one of the larger region bank will offer the possibility to make payments up to 30 euros without entering a second password. It's a great start. I know that Swedbank is moving in that direction too, but in its own way. Through the use of biometric making payments. Great job, guys. Periodic and basket payments are expected by the market too. The analogs are inconvenient or too expensive, and I hear that Swedbank is planning to launch such services in October. Larger companies have been waiting for multi-signing feature. They can make payments faster in a more convenient way because payment initiation service currently not available for those companies if they have A+B signing scheme. So I see that you are some bored about my histories and dreams, and I guess that we can go to questions to all of us. Ekaterina?
Thank you for your presentation. So it's really time for questions, really time to discuss what we have just been heard. So many questions in our chat. But I would like to start from my own, to use the rights of the host of the party. So listening to you, so many things and so many benefits you see for your companies and in the light of PSD2. But how do you think, what customers will value the most, or maybe what they have experienced this last year? Have they recognized the changes? Have they realized that something has changed in their user experience when they make payments or when they buy goods and services? So from the customer perspective, how do you think? What customers are valuing most, speaking about PSD2? So who would like to start with that? Gediminas, I see that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can start. So I think really customers appreciate this embedded banking experience that it allows for third parties and either directly with the banks or through some aggregators initiate payments conveniently and do it like without separate going to internet bank and kind of copy paste amount, copy paste what is the purpose of payment and so on, just to have this integrated experience, embedded banking. And of course, like in Baltics, it's maybe not such a huge change because bank link service was very common in Baltics for last more than 15 years. And we had this embedded payment experience already, but it's not the case in some other markets. So maybe that's this bank link popularity explains why PSD2 APIs are most popular in Lithuania in comparison with other Baltic countries and Sweden, because we are used to such type of payments. And card payments, people pay with your card online, was not that popular, and it's still not popular. So I think it embedded the payment experience it's really good. Another thing is, of course, account information services that allows some third-party services to create some experiences that they can overview all your finances in one place and maybe later on create some PFM on that and so on. So we at Swedbank, as you know, also launched this possibility for Swedbank customers to access other bank accounts. If they do have accounts in other banks, they can also check balance statement report and initiate payments. So it means that you don't even need to log in separately to other bank internet banks. So you can do it from one place. So I think it's this openness and its harmonization of APIs across all the banks allows bigger coverage of banks than it used to be, because BankLink was more like proprietary services and PSD2 API is more like universal. It's not fully standardized. It's not exactly same, but it's still harmonized and it's very much similar across the banks.
Thank you, Gediminas. Gerd, has customer experience changed in your services? They were quite smooth already. Have your customers noticed that now it's a new regulation?
Yes, like I already said in my presentation, the problems there are coming with PSD2. What we have right now is the friction with the high number of STAs, but that's already getting better. So I think we will be able to reach the state we had before, or just with the start of PSD2 in September last year. So a number of STAs, which is okay for the users in terms of friction. And the other thing is that the redirection flows are causing also a lot of friction for the users. So we already talked about embedded approach and flows and seamless payments. And with this redirection from us to the bank and back and forth, I think the consumers have some trouble with it. Yes, that are the bad things, the bad side of the medal. The positive things are for the account information services and also our account insight service, that we are able to provide access to the accounts without the users being present, which enables the possibility to implement a whole bunch of new applications that never have been there before.
Thank you. Alexeus, you are providing B2B solutions. So your customers are business customers who are intermediaries between consumers and you. So what were their reflections? How maybe share some interesting facts?
Sure. As I mentioned in my presentation, merchants and our clients are very not happy when we switch screen scraping solution to PSD2. But after 1 year, everyone and our merchants and their clients are quite okay with new flow. Because they may repeat it 1, 2, 3 times, it's became a norma. One more thing I'd like to mention, that merchants are waiting for one-click payment. I was recently in a retail presentation here in Lithuania, and Barbora's CEO was dreaming about that someone can buy something in the internet by clicking only one button. At the moment, we are thinking how to make this payment process by clicking 2 buttons, but still it is 2 times more than he wished.
I don't know, maybe it's a reason of the, all the struggles that you have mentioned as well. Is this true that the reason is their regulatory technical standard, which is still imperfect? So could we have the round discussion about the RTS, regulatory technical standard? What you see as a field for improvement in the upcoming changes? Who would like to start? Who would like to reflect on the RTS?
Yeah, I could have a stab at that. Well, at some point, you have some sort of maybe too high expectations that the legislator is a know-it-all and can make something perfect. And that's rarely the case. So what we got is some sort of best attempt, and then it's really up to the market actors to help find the real intent and what is reasonable for all parties in the market. If it's perfect for one side, then it's probably not perfect for the other. So this is like an exercise in flexibility from each participants to find what is the common ground, what should it be. But the RTS was pretty far from perfect. That's for sure. But we have to sort of cater for that and find a way of solving it. Else, if we cannot, we will just be hit by the stick again, and there will be a PSD3 talking about something else. So.
Thank you. Maybe Mindaugas, you would like to add something on that, speaking about the standard?
Yes, at least what we see, and we get some questions around it. But in reality, like with Berlin Group or like a few other standards, we have pretty wide standards. Even if you would look at SEPA as a standard, there are also some small differences between banks and like countries. So with standard we implemented with Berlin Group, it is pretty big, and each bank selected what is the most appropriate to its own systems. And by PSD2, it's also implemented, like what I show in my own channels. I also provide an API principle. So that's where we have a difference between banks. I would say that what would be best from RTSS is that we would provide a more detailed specification, and maybe as we see from the market that there is a real need for domestic payments in all the markets. So it would be better to concentrate on really products which are used by the market and not to require implement all the exotic payments which are not required by the market. So this is like my part.
From the business side perspective, maybe Gert, please add on your opinion.
Yes, so I agree that this whole thing is an evolutionary process which is happening there, but I think it would have made sense to maybe take some more time from the perspective of the European Commission to talk a bit more intensive with all market participants to get to have been able to provide a better start with PSD2, because that is what we noticed every time we are talking to regulators and the banks, that the moment we starting to show them our use cases, and it's true that ours might be a bit different to other TPPs, but then they always start telling us, okay, now we understand what you are aiming for. And that is, I think, the main thing which is missing.
Thank you. Thank you. Would Alexeus would like to add something? Your expectations, achievements of
I think sorry, I think that is too much technical part, and I'm not very experienced in that. Leave it to my colleagues to discuss with Swedbank or others later.
Okay, so let's head on to the next question. And the question was inspired by audience. Actually, it sounds like, could we expect aligned response API data fields for all banks? It was claimed the question for all Baltic banks. I may add on ask for European banks. What do you think about the alignment of response API data fields?
Yeah, okay. Good. I'd like to chip in on that one. Well, since not all banks are the same, and certainly not all countries are the same, so this is a very large standardization exercise and something that you have to commit to willingly. As I said in my presentation, the Berlin Group, there are coming in now country-specific annexes where the participants in a country voluntarily have tried to standardize on some payment products, and this would be inside the Berlin Group umbrella. So then it's up to the adoption of each bank to choose that. It's not enforced, so it's voluntarily that all banks would support Berlin Group, which is maybe an improbable scenario. So to end up in a fully harmonized thing, the API would have to be very tied to an underlying payment product. Like if you take a SEPA payment, then the scheme is very standardized, and but there are still variations in the way a Payne 001 is done, and it's explained in the MIG for each bank. So having some sort of expectation that everyone is going to look and behave in the same way in a marketplace is a bit unlikely, I would say. That's my take on that.
Gert, would you like to add on something? No.
I would say that, but probably
any more reflections?
I would say that on long
Sorry?
run, but I don't know. I would say that on long run, 5 years, I don't know, maybe 10 years, but probably it will happen. Things will be aligned, but it will take time.
Yeah, great things need time. As the whole
That's
thing
true.
with the open banking, for sure. Yeah, it's hard to disagree. There were a few questions related with the API aggregation and aggregator services and aggregators themselves. So could you elaborate more on the role of aggregators? Does it help to optimize the costs of connecting? Is it a great way out for the service providers? Share your opinions on that.
Yeah, okay, I can start. So so actually it's there are really many aggregators in the market, and it's actually if you want to choose some aggregator, actually it's a hard question to answer, because different aggregators are working on different markets. So some are focusing on Scandinavia, maybe some Western Europe countries, some Eastern Europe, and some Baltic countries, and so on. So it really depends on what APIs of what banks in what markets you need to have. Then another thing is that some aggregators are only technical aggregators. So they connect to APIs and provide the services to the ones who have licenses, and they do not have their own license. But some aggregators some aggregators do have license, and they provide with their own license services. Also, payment methods. Some aggregators ask payments per each transaction, and some are basing on monthly support or maintenance fee. And also each TPP needs to, not TPP, but each company who wants some aggregation service, they need to have a look at the conversion rate of API integration. What is implementation, how it works, is it redirect or decoupled, or both are supported, and so on. So and that's why actually we want to reduce this complexity, at least for Baltics for now. And we launched this multi-bank bank link service, that it's one agreement, one technical integration, no license required. And we think that it's the best option for e-commerce to go for.
Someone as well to add comments on the aggregation? I don't know, Alexeus, yeah, maybe we can call you aggregator.
Actually, we are thinking about that, because expansion to another market is quite expensive and long last project. And in some markets, we are willing to be in the next year or maybe later. They're thinking to make some first steps with aggregation service providers, and I think that it's a quite cheap and quick way to check, are you ready to work in other foreign countries with a different culture, with different payment culture, etc. So I think that is great, and we are really willing to test some of them.
Thank you, Mindaugas. Gert, you're raising your hand, right?
Yes, exactly. So, like I already showed you in my presentation, I don't know, maybe you can show the slide I just opened again. So we are already supporting 16 countries in Europe, and there will be a lot more following next year. I think we are a good choice if a TPP is interested in those countries or tries to expand its service all over Europe. So we are having with our service a huge flexibility, like we already heard here from Swedbank, what the needs are from the TPP side, and the service, yeah, it's totally flexible. You can more or less do all you want to do, all which is there from a technical perspective, and in all those countries. Yeah, we welcome everybody to get in touch with us.
Thank you. I think that there would be fair if I the question from Alexei's presentation to Swedbank colleagues, and maybe they will answer it online. So the question sounded like why Sweden is always the first and Baltics come next. And first, let me rephrase. First of all, is it a true story that all the functionality first in development comes from Sweden? In the open banking perspective, was it really so? Could you comment on that?
I would not say that. I would not say that this is exactly true. Some things comes in Baltic, some things comes in Sweden first, and things comes in alignment to to the market, which is like or to the situation in the market, whatever banks are exposing in very API, and let's say probably this is key difference. Also, we should also note that our resources are also extremely limited. So even though it would be nice to be innovative in all the parts of the world, but we have to put the priorities. So this is my side.
Yeah, I'll also chip in short. I mean, our approach from the start was to build one single API to cover for all markets, and I know several other market participants who chose a different approach where you do local exposure for each country, and they evolve in their own different ways. Each has its drawbacks and its benefits, but in theory, you would think that everything would be the same in all the different markets, but then reality hits you hard in the back of your head. So this is also something to consider. So I wouldn't say to answer the question that everything is coming from Sweden versus the Baltics. There are local differences, and that really causes diversion in the API.
Thank you, Alexander. One more question from the audience regarding the screen scraping. So we are asked if we believe that the solution with screen scraping technology is the correct way to provide the fallback solution in case something is not working and API functions poorly. So if not, so what is the proper solution?
Okay, I can start on that. So yeah, first of all, we need to understand that the screen scraping is kind of many types or many channels that can be scraped. So we really don't like and don't tolerate internet bank scraping because customer data is not protected well enough. Customer usually is not aware of what kind of data is shared with third party and so on, and usually customer even don't understand that it's some scraping technology and that TPP can see everything that he sees himself when he logs in into internet bank. Now about the scraping technology, a correct way to provide fallback solution. Yeah, fallback solution is made like as alternative to API, and it's not primary channel, it's a secondary channel, and we provided kind of simplified PSD2 scope internet bank. way, and this for third parties, yeah, they need to scrape it to kind of, or to use it to get all the needed functionality of PSD2. It's either account information or payment initiation and so on. But actually, our API is so stable. If we look at statistics, of course, it's hard to compare with internet bank or mobile bank that are more complicated and more having more features. But API is more stable. Our API is more stable than internet bank and mobile bank. So it's not about that internet or mobile are not stable. They are stable, really good services, but API is kind of nearly 100% availability. So and fallback solution is not needed that much. And in Baltics, we got fallback exemption. We don't have fallback solution in Baltics. We only do in Sweden. And we urge everyone to use PSD2 API. It's of course better way, and it's better technology and more secure and so on. Mindaugas, maybe you want to add something on this fallback?
Fallback is a complicated question, as even from RTS perspective, it's so clearly undescribed what to do and what it is that like nobody knows exactly. So practically, yes, currently most of the fallbacks are just some kind of adoption for screen scraping, and generally anyway, to build a stable service and secure service on screen scraping is complicated, especially as anyway fraud cases are still happening using screen scraping technologies, and banks are taking some precautions to deal with that. So moving to API, it's a way forward.
Anyone would like to add something on the top?
Yeah, maybe that it is also hard for the TPPs to connect to all those different fallback solutions out there. So in the end, it doesn't matter what fallback there will be, but it would be good if the on a European level, there would be some kind of alignment. What fallback should there be out in the market to make it a bit easier for TPPs who aim to be connected to all the banks in Europe?
Thank you,
In general,
yeah.
I would just say that if you have a need for fallback, that's strange from the start, really. If you commit enough resources to build an API and that is feature complete, you should have a better environment and the possibility to keep that up and stable than entertaining some sort of a fallback solution with variances. The customer-facing channel is not made to have third-party access in it, so that's not really a solution. So it will be something in the middle. So committing the resources to do a stable API should be the proper way to go. And that should be at least as stable as your online channel, otherwise you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, Gert, I see you raising your hand.
Yeah, that's true, and I totally agree, but maybe there's a misunderstanding talking about fallbacks. So first of all, there are fallbacks which the TPPs are allowed to use until the banks are exempted from the fallback. But the other fallbacks we are talking about is what I mentioned in my presentation as well. What might happen if the APIs are not working properly for a specific period of time? Then there should be also a fallback be provided for the TPPs to be able to are connected without interruption. So there are two different kinds of fallbacks we are talking right now.
Yep. And at least from our experience, we had some incidents during the year when like an API wasn't available, but to be open at the same time, everything else was also unavailable. So, like,
Yeah, I know.
this is a grim reality.
Yeah, that is true. That happens most of the time. So it's a tricky thing to be fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking about the payments, the stability of the service is crucially important. So I think that it was a great discussion, and we're approaching the end of it. And for the dessert, I have saved a question about dreaming big, and share your thoughts about the open banking in 5 years perspective. How do you see it? What new services you expect, or maybe some new regulation points in general? How do you see open banking services in 5-year perspective? So who would like to start?
Yeah, I can start. And depends how we treat open banking. Some people say like open banking is purely PSD2, but I look at wider on this. So if we say that PSD2 is only a startup for open banking, then of course now we started with the payments like account information. Yeah, so that was regulated. But I think generally for open banking, banks will start creating more and more APIs, voluntary, not mandatory, not regulated, but will think of some additional APIs to provide better integrations for customers to have more integrated experience. For example, some integrated financial services of, let's say, leasing, consumer loans, or something like that. So you would not need to, the way you do payments now, the way you could get financing and do it online and real time at the end. So all decisions would be automated, and all the embedded banking experience that you could find on various third-party sites. So, for example, if you want to buy a car, you could order it online, and at the same time check, are you eligible for leasing? What would be monthly payment? What is down payment? And what is interest rate? And decision is kind of at once made, and then you could finalize the order. So it's one of examples, but it's more like integrated or embedded banking experience will happen due to more APIs created by banks.
Alexeus, maybe you could be the next to share your thoughts.
Yes, I could be the next. And actually, I'm very afraid of this 5 years perspective, because as I mentioned in my presentation, I think that in this 5 years, such services could be free of charge, and we should think how to monetize them, because anyway, customers will look for something, and if everyone will give it for free, we should decide how to earn on that. And I think that a lot of other startups have a lot of ideas how to provide such service for free. We too. And let's dream and wait for 5 years just to see, will it be true or not? So I'm very cautious about pricing.
Okay, maybe the next one could be Gerd. Thank you, Alexeus. Gerd?
Yes, I agree with what we heard. I don't know who it was, but the first comment here. And I expect in the next years to have all APIs on a very mature level. And I'm quite optimistic that we are able to solve together all the problems we are still seeing right now. And it would be great if there will be more API endpoints, as already mentioned, for several other services, and data to be accessed, so as saving accounts, credit cards, histories, and things like this.
Thank you, Gerd. Alexander, what are your wishes and vision of the next upcoming 5 years?
Yeah, I think what Gedimina says, that we will start to see more services where banking is just a small part of the bigger thing, and I hope. I mean, this needs to come on a basis where the market is asking for what stuff should happen. So we expose the things that are relevant first, and don't start with like in what Mindaugas mentioned, the exotic stuff that is used by only a fraction of a percentage of all users. So in terms of Berlin Group, this means that the members are asking for the things that they think is valuable in their various marketplaces, be it a TPP or another bank looking to create some product or what it may be. But definitely, I think we will see banking as an embedded experience in some greater scheme of a product. Where financing is only a small part of the experience for the customer. So this is the way I think open banking will evolve.
Thank you, Alexander. And Mindaugas, please share your dreams and wishes.
In fact, it's very hard to add something else, as quite a lot of things were already said by my colleagues. Maybe I would say that maybe not in 5 years. What I was expecting that we would already have that third parties would remember their customer and use this 90 days token to create a really much better experience. So this is my very short time wish, and for a longer perspective, I believe this is a way how to innovate. Bank is good in executing payments, but we cannot create all the things around. Please integrate it into some interesting things, and it would be really nice to see how it is working. So just best wish and move forward.
Okay, I see all the panelists are smiling, so I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thank you to all of you. On my behalf, on the behalf of our audience, and thank you for sharing your experience, insights, and future plans. So I hope we will enjoy the benefits that new future of open banking brings soon. For all the audience, I need to say thank you for staying tuned. Please follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn, and see you in the upcoming events. Wishing you best of luck making payments online. Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.